Good afternoon. We are going to test the sensory system. We are not going to discuss the theory behind it, but how to do it. Commonly, when we discuss sensory system examination, we go under three different headings. Number one, sensations that are coming through lateral spinothalamic tract, pain and temperature, posterior column sensations, vibration sense, joint sense, Romberg sign, touch sensation which goes through both pathways, and then cortical sensation, 5 of it separate entity. So by examining the patient with a view to detect sensation through spinothalamic tract, posterior column and cortical sensation, we are going to anatomically localize where is the lesion is. First of all, let us see how to look for touch. Commonly, cotton wool is enough to keep the touch, and ask the patient to say one each time he can appreciate. Close your eyes. So he has closed his eyes, and whenever I touch him, so he's touching. I'm just touching it without pressing. If you press, it becomes a pressure sensation, but it's only touch sensation. One caution is you should not drag. You should not drag when you test it. Also, if there are hairy areas, when you drag, they will get sensation of the movement of the hair, which may mask any sensory abnormalities. Now you are going to test for his pain sensation. For pain sensation, you have to use disposable objects. Commonly pins are not used, toothpicks are used, and after use you can just break the tip and then becomes just like a disposable one. So this is a toothpick which can be used for testing of pain sensation. Then you should not hold pin like this. You must hold between two fingers. The idea is, we can see from him, you tell me first 5 pricks, are they all alike? They're all alike? Variable. Now see these pricks. So there's a difference between the way you prick. In this type of pricking, you can use any amount of force depending upon your mood or convenience, and artificially you can make findings or mask findings. But by doing this, you are giving equal pressure each time, so you will get the appropriate answer from the patient. So this is the way you look for pain sensation. Then you are looking for temperature sensation. For that purpose, you are using 2 test tubes which contain hot water and cold water. Patient will be closing the eyes, and then you will be testing separately. So you have pain, temperature and touch sensation. We have already tested. Now we are going to test the sensation through the posterior column. Commonly we take objects, areas like bony prominence, like end of the tibia, you can feel. If it's not there, you can go for a tibial tuberosity. Still again, you can go over here, iliac crest, you can go over sternum or over the spine. So start from the bottom, you can go up. So also here the radial styloid, you can go up upwards. So this is 128 Hertz 24, which is used for testing of the sensation. So this is for posterior column. Now you are testing for joint position sense, joint sense and position sense. Now a normal person must be able to appreciate even 5 to 10 degrees of movement of a joint. So, and this movement should be very slow and not abrupt. So what we have to do is hold the proximal phalanx like this, then hold the distal phalanx with 2 fingers on either side. I am telling the patient, you look here and see, this is up, this is down. When I ask you which is up and down, you must tell me which is going up or down. Okay. So where is it going now? Where is it going now? So important point would like to stress is that you have to hold here on the side, and this method is wrong. This is the correct method. So alternatively, I can put his hand in one position and ask him to put other hand in the same position. So this way also I can check this posterior column. The third method of posterior column is, I will ask you to stand here with eyes closed, eyes open, with the feet together. I will ask him whether he will fall down in this position, and I am protecting him all around. Now I ask him to close the eyes and see he is not swaying. This is how we look for rhombox test. Also, in this position, I am asking him to stretch out his fingers wide apart and eyes closed. So, along with the rhombox sign, I am testing whether there is any position problems, joint problems pertaining to his upper limbs. If he has got joint position sense problems in the upper limb, he will be having what's called as pseudoarthrosis. The fingers will be moving, keep on moving to find out where exactly it is. So, it's better to do both together. As you test for rhombox sign, make sure you brief the patient, you protect the patient, feet should be closed together, eyes must be closed, and if you can extend the hand forward, you can simultaneously what is happening to the upper limb. Alternatively, there are different other techniques. Can you just bring two fingers and meet each other? This can be done. Yes. Now go away. Close your eyes and do it again. Since he is aware about position sense of his hand, he is able to approximate even when eyes are closed. So we have finished now the sensation through the lateral spinothalamic tract, namely pain and temperature, posterior column vibration sense, joint position sense, and rhombox sign, and touch sensation through both lateral spinothalamic tract and to the dorsal column. Now we have all the sensation goes to thalamus. From there they go to the cortex, and the cortex has got different other sensations, finer qualifications. That's what they are called as cortical sensation. So for testing the cortical sensation, I have couple of things. Number one, there are 5 steps in the examination of cortical sensation. Step 1 is what's called as tactile localization. Close your eye and tell me where I am touching you. So he is able to localize. So this is called as tactile localization. Now he is going to tell us how many sides I am touching him. 1 place or 2 places. So he is able to appreciate only 1 place, even though I am giving him 2 spots, because human body is arranged in such a way that certain places you can appreciate subtle differences, some places you cannot differentiate even if they are wider apart. Now I am going to test his finger. How many places I am testing now? 2. So he is able to see 2 when I am touching the fingertip. Even when it was wider, he was not able to appreciate. So in other words, when you touch for 2-point discrimination, depending upon the site, the distance of your caliper must be different. Up-down wall just be a couple of centimeters apart, but fingertip, basically meant for fine sensations, can appreciate even small differences. So take care of this important point. So we finished tactile localization, tactile discrimination. Now we have got 3 more. Can you close your eye? I will give him a familiar object in his hand, and he will look at his texture, his weight. He will appreciate all parts of his object and come to conclusion what it is. It's a pen. So this is called as stereognosis. Now I am going to write something in his hand. Commonly a number is written and he has to tell what it is. So this is called as graphesthesia. This is the 4th step in the examination of cortical sensation. The last is called sensory attention. Which side I am testing now? Which side I am testing now? Okay. Now which side I am testing now? So please see that I am touching mirror points on his body, similar points on body. Mirror image I am testing together, and he is able to appreciate. This is called as sensory attention. When this is gone, you call it as sensory inattention. Same way, when he sits up and tests the field of vision simultaneously to show objects, it may so happen that he has got visual inattention also. To summarize the cortical sensation: tactile localization, discrimination, graphesthesia, stereognosis, and sensory attention. Examination of sensory system, particularly cortical sensation, is done only if the primary sensations are intact. Otherwise, you don't test it. Now, how to proceed? Examination of sensory system. If the patient say, I have got area of anesthesia, hyperesthesia, hyperalgesia, that particular spot must be the initial site where you look for sensation. Subsequently, you go to other areas. We have already seen how to look for primary sensation. So, if the patient is having anesthesia of the lower half of the body, you have to start at the tip of the toes and ascend upwards till he start recognizing the sensation. Basic principle: always start from abnormal side to normal side. Now, once you have finished examination of sensory system, you have to draw the picture yourself and find out where is the sensory loss. So accordingly, you delineate and find out, is it along a route? Then that if a particular dermatome is anesthetic, you know that particular route is in trouble. For example, if he is having anesthesia over here, I know he has got a C5 problem. If he has got anesthesia here, I know it's an L5 problem. For this purpose, you have to know everything about the dermatomal pattern. To summarize, C1 has no dermatome, C2 is occiput, C3 is side of the neck, C4 is epaulette area, C5 is over here, C6 is these two fingers, and this is C7 and this C8. Easy to memorize. This finger is the longest finger in human body, and C7 vertebra is longest spine. So easy to remember, this is 7, this is 6, C8. And over here comes 1, 2. Axilla is T3, nipple is T4, Cephalosternum is C6, over here umbilic is 10, and groin is 12, and upper part thigh is L1, L2, L3. And over goes like this. You have got L4 and L5, and you have got S1, you are walking on S1, over here S2, perineal area, S3, S4. So easy to remember. If you learn the dermatome, you can tell where exactly it is. So if it is a dermatomal distribution of anesthesia, easy to find out. Number 2, if it's along a nerve distribution, sensory loss, that's also you can delineate. For example, if he has got this 1.5 finger anesthesia, it's ulnar nerve. If it's only here, I know it's a radial nerve. If it's only these 3 fingers, I know it's a median nerve. So every nerve has got distribution. So once you know the nerve anatomy and distribution of sensory supply, you know how to localize it also. Now coming to so that's how we localize in the root, that's how we localize in the nerve. Now coming to the plexus, whole limb may be involved, or it may be even patchy. Coming to the spinal cord, all the sensations without level will be affected, so you can easily find out. And inside the spinal cord, there may be a couple of diseases which can be tricky, like B12 deficiency. You may find only posterior column is affected, lateral spinothalamic tract is intact, something like a dissociation. If it's syringomyelia inside the spinal cord, you may have only decussating fibers involved. And suppose there's a syrinx here around T2, T3, you find the crossing fibers in that particular area only are affected. So he'll have anesthesia over here, that will be called as suspended anesthesia. Suspended in the sense, over here it is normal, above this line is all normal, only patch is affected. So you can localize the lesion according to the area of anesthesia. Coming to the brainstem, commonly one side of the face is affected, opposite half of the body is affected, crossed hemianesthesia. And once it goes to the thalamus and upwards, it is hemianesthesia as such. So very easy to understand how to examine this patient, how to delineate, and then you can easily get a diagnosis basically from the examination of sensory system. Once there is the area of anesthesia, make sure all the sensations are separately tested, because there can be dissociation, that can be a trick of problem. And also remember, cortical sensations are tested only if other sensations are intact. Thank you.